Yeah, thank you, and I'll try to shout out as well. Hope you can hear me down there. And thanks a lot really for this invitation. I'm gonna shout even more. I have to confess I'm a bit more concerned about scaling than sustainability. Of course, sustainability is important. I think we're three very brilliant examples of presentation right now about the importance and also how well we're doing in that respect. I think the really tricky part is the scaling part. And for instance, I mean, how do you export political will? How do you export mountains? How do you export planning process and so on? So I think in general, I hope this forum and other forums with this theme will look more into the scaling part than to the sustainability part. We know we're good at that, we know it's important, but how to get it out there to other countries and have a much bigger impact than just Hersted. Anyway, thank you for a very precise introduction to how we should have our presentations today. So I'm going to start out reading out what I was supposed to say. The first sentence was laid out for me. Yes, scaling sustainability is definitely a challenge in the build sector, I was told to start out with.
Thank you, Mikkel, and then we'll go on to... No.
But I think it was a very good introduction, I have to say, and I have no problem saying that, because it is indeed a problem in the build sector with the scalability. We just made a number of fact sheets for Realdania about innovation and export in the built environment. They was published a few days ago, so please go to Realdania to look them up. And one of them was about startups. And what we can see is that we have an extreme high startup activity within the built environment. That goes for architects, engineers, and contractors. But we also see that the job creation they make is very, very limited compared to not only the industry, but also the transport sector. And we also see that the death rate, the companies going out of the market, is extremely high compared to our neighboring countries. So yes, we do have a very big scalability problem in general within the built environment. So why is that the case? That was the second very precise question. I think one thing is probably that we do not have a lot of very good role models. We have spent in Smith Innovation a lot of time recently in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley area, trying to export our collaborative water innovation processes to that part of the world. And being part of that environment is highly stimulating, even though it's outside of our industry mostly, just to be in an environment where you always talk about how you can make the very big next hit. It's such a, the barriers, the goal of levels of ambition is so much higher. When you talk to Danish companies working within the built environment, coming up with new sustainable solutions, it's always about just muddling through how to make it for the next grand application. So having role models, and I think one of the best solutions for that is probably to mix industries and mix sectors, so you can see, okay, you can actually multiply it, not only by the 1 or 2, but perhaps the 1,000 or millions. Another very big problem I would say is lack of capital. We don't have enough external finance, risk-willing finance that will invest in this industry. And I think a lot of money goes to ICT and biotech and so on, but when it comes to construction and related areas, it's really difficult to get funding for it, especially commercial risk-willing funding. So I think dedicated business angels, seed funding environments, specifically looking at this industry and understanding this industry is also part of the problem and the solution. A third problem and potential solution is we have also, to be honest, to say that we're not really good within the construction industry to make our innovations, our sustainable innovation, very simple. They're always very technical, very complex, really hard for people to understand, and very difficult to buy into if you not have a long-time interest in construction details. And I mean, to be honest, not all people have that, surprisingly. So I think we have to be better at making our investment opportunities simple, but also connectable. And that's the thing, I mean, if you look at where monies are going right now, they go into ideas that have a high degree of connectivity. You can take, in a physical sense, a rather stupid innovation, but if you can link it with some kind of data and having a digitalized version of it that can become viral, that really can go through the roof, then you have a very interesting commodity to invest in. And I think sometimes we don't really pay enough concern to that within the construction environment. So we have to be better at scaling in the sense of connectivity within the built environment. 2 success examples, that was the 4th question I was asked to come up with. I could say architects, but that would really be a lie if you look at the statistics. They are exporting less and less in general, according to their own numbers. I could say Rockwool and Danfoss and Velux, and that would obviously be true, but also a very old story. So if to come up with a more recent story about it, where someone really succeeded in exporting sustainable solutions, I have to come up with 2 water stories. Sorry. So it's not a built environment in the traditional sense, but slightly related. One is DHI, Dansk Hydraulisk Institut, a GTS Institute, a well-known figure within the Danish water industry, been around for many years. If you look at their business today, I think 85 or so of their turnover is international, and most of the people are working internationally. So they have been able to, and the reason for their success is that they have been able to take very complex knowledge about how to model water flows through the city and through the landscape, to put them into software models that are really easy to export. So when they go out to new markets selling both this software model and consultancy, they always start with a software model. So they have been able to take the knowledge and put it into a software. I think that's one very important reason to their ability to make high degree of export. But another example, and that's a very important example for me, because I think it stresses a way ahead that is probably more likely to be followed by most companies within the construction industry. That is a small company started out a bit more than 10 years ago called Consult. And that's a company very concerned about endangered species, frogs, animals, of all kinds of things. When you talk to them, he always talks about the frogs that are endangered. And you say, okay, but when do we come to the business part? But when you look at the company today, 10 years after, they have the majority of their business and turnover and employees in Poland. They were born global. They started out from the very beginning with a big international project, EU applications, and so on in Poland, and today their main business is in Poland. So to me, it tells a story about if you really go for it from the very outset and do not have this idea that first we have to be like 30 years in Denmark, so by the end of the day, when we're all dead, we can go to the other markets. So I think, to me, Consult is a very interesting example. Can other sectors learn from this? Yeah, I hope they can. But I would say, I think a lot of knowledge to be exchanged with the fashion industry, I think both way around. But I think we do have a big problem when it comes to the city and planning part, because as you were saying, it depends so much on the political will. It is not a single component you can sell here and there, but it's a total system that we have to sell one way or another. So I think the main challenge there is how to find these system integrators, the coordination brokers, innovation brokers, whatever we call them, that can take all the small parts, put them together, and make them work in a different environment. And in that sense, I think, or in that area, I think we do need a very new model of thinking about scalability and export. Well, thank you.
Super.